Hello, everyone. Welcome, Stampers. This is Lori Staley, Addicted Stamper, and I am a US-based independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It has been a crazy week, and so I thought rather than post a Make It Monday video for you today, I would come on live tonight and share what I was going to do in a video. So we are going to talk about vellum tonight and different ways to use vellum. It's actually the first of a two-part series that I'm going to be doing. Hi, Emmy. Thanks for joining. And I'm really excited to share some of the projects I have for you tonight. First, just a quick reminder, we have this awesome Start with Savings special running right now. It is a discount on our starter kit. So normally you get to pick $125 in product, plus you get a free paper pumpkin in your kit for just $99 plus the tax. Stampin' Up! Even picks up the shipping. But from now until the end of November, the kit is just $75. So you still get to pick $125 of product in your choice. You still get that free paper pumpkin in your kit and all the supplies, but it's just $75 plus the tax. So that is quite a savings and it is quite a deal. So if you are even thinking that you might like to give Stampin' Up! A try, get a discount on your toys, which is what I did 18 years ago, and I'm still here, then you definitely want to check that out. So if you don't have a demonstrator that you're working with and you'd like additional information, please reach out to me. You can drop me a comment below. We can connect. I can answer any questions that you might have and would certainly welcome you to join our fabulous stellar stampers. I have some great women on my team, close and far away, so we can do all kinds of things to keep you involved. All right, so let me get started with vellum. Vellum is one of those products that we see. We like it when we see it used on a project, but maybe we just don't know quite how well to use it, right? My first way that I like to use it is as an overlay or a diffuse element, if you would like to. So this is the Wild Roses background stamp that we have. I stamped that in Calypso Coral, and then I paired it with some Mossy Meadow and some soft seafoam. Of course, this die cut is from the scalloped contour dies. And then I just put a piece of vellum behind it. So it softens the Calypso Coral behind the vellum and allows you to stamp your greeting over top. That greeting might get lost if it was stamped right over the bright Calypso Coral. So this definitely gives that diffused effect wherever the vellum lays on the card. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for joining. So I'm not going to demonstrate this one. I literally just cut a piece of vellum the size of the frame, attached it to the back of the frame, and then popped that up on dimensionals. But that's a pretty easy way to incorporate vellum and start getting comfortable with it. I did use our regular classic stamps to stamp this, but then I did heat emboss it with some clear embossing powder. And I don't know if you can pick that up or not, but it not only gives it a raised image, it ensures that that ink is never going to smear, right? So if it would get wet or something, it might smear. It won't smear once it's embossed. Okay, so there's that one. Hi, Betty. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, Bren. Welcome, welcome. Okay, but here's the one I want to show you. So I'm going to do a little bit of embossing, both heat embossing and dry embossing with you. And we're going to start with a piece of vellum. And this is our regular cardstock weight vellum that we offer in the annual catalog. And I have the ornate floral embossing folder here. I do like using the 3D embossing folders with the vellum. It gives a deeper impression. Wait till you see the effect that embossing this vellum has. So I have my die cutting machine sitting off to my left. And rather than bring it into the camera view, which would shake our table and shake our camera, I'm just going to take my platform, put my 3D folder with the vellum inside. I always run it through with the fold at the top or on the side. Never put your fold in the back as you're running it through your die cut and emboss machine. If you do that over time, it can cause the fold to crack. And then the two layers of the embossing folder don't connect correctly and you don't get a great impression. Look at this. Isn't that pretty? Let me pull a piece of dark cardstock out. It will make it easier for you to see that effect. I love embossing. Hello, Laura. Thank you for, or Laurie, sorry. Thank you for joining. I love that effect, right? And that is, again, just plain vellum that we ran through a 3D embossing folder. Now, the trick with vellum is how the heck do you attach it, right? Because so often you can see the vellum or see the adhesive through the vellum. Well, what I like to do is make sure that I'm going to have something on top of the vellum. It might just be a couple more cute contour scallop dies. So we're going to use these. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like that. We're going to use those to create our focal point on this project. And I have the color and contour stamp set that the greeting is coming from that says, thank you for everything. We're going to stamp that in the Blackberry Bliss. That is the color that I'm going to layer behind our vellum. And I'm going to stamp that right down here at the bottom. I use my grid paper to try to make sure I'm straight. There is no guarantee even with that, but we're going to give it a shot, right? Oh, thank you guys. I'm glad you like it. I do. I love that 3D effect on the vellum. So we have that. Then I'm going to bring in one of the little stamps from the Lovely You stamp set. This has a ton of greetings in it, guys. And then it has these cute little images. And I think they often get overlooked. But instead of just stamping that all in the Blackberry Bliss, we're going to color the red rubber stamp with our Stampin' Write markers. Now, you can do this technique with your Stampin' Write markers. You can do it on the red rubber. You can also do it on the photopolymer stamps, right? But you cannot use your alcohol markers. And why is that? That is because they are alcohol based, thus the name, right? And it dries too quickly. So it dries, and it will especially dry and stain your photopolymer stamps if you use it on there. So I always use my Stampin' Write markers to do this. And I just colored with soft sea foam on the, whoops, I forgot part, on the leaves. And I'm also going to do it on the base of this flower. Forgive me if I have to pull this out of camera and get it closer to my eyeballs. I can't wear my contacts right now, so distance vision is not my friend, huh? Then we're going to come back in with the Blackberry Bliss and do the tops of the flowers. And then I'm going to teach you DVB technique. I know, what is DVB? Well, it's Darth Vader breathing. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you know exactly what I mean. So all I did is I huffed basically onto the stamp with my breath. The moisture in my breath reactivates any of the ink that might have dried while I was adding the second color, right? So then we have that beautiful image. Love that. I love the soft sea foam behind it. It's just very soft and gentle. And then the Blackberry Bliss really pops off of there. We're going to go ahead and mount these two together. And I am going to bring in my seal to do that. So, so cute. I'm going to add a little bling too. What do you think? Hi, Tina. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to do that. I'm working towards my 1,000 subscribers and would love your help in reaching that. So I tied a little silver bow with my Simply Elegant trim. I love that trim. That comes in the gold and silver. And we're just going to add that little bow right here. I'm going to leave the tail long, and I think that's a little crooked. See what happens when you can't wear your contacts. So what I'm going to do now is this is going to go in the center. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm just going to put my adhesive in the center. Then it will be hidden by our layer, right? Depending on your pattern, so you almost can't see that behind the embossed vellum. I can see just a little bit of it here. I'm not sure if it even shows up on camera. So embossing is another great way to kind of hide the adhesive behind it. that is one way that I apply adhesive. It's just making sure that I have an element on the front of the card to kind of hide it behind. But it does mean that it's going to be up, you know, it's not going to be tacked down the whole way around, and that's okay. That's okay. Vellum is also great for any kind of wedding invitation. Hi, Shirley. Or, you know, a formal invitation to a special dinner, something like that. So I do love playing with the vellum. And this is just the first part. We're going to do another part probably next week, maybe. We'll have to see how the week goes. If not next week, then the following week for sure. All right, and then we're going to put this right in the center. And there we have our card front. And then all I'm going to do is put that on a piece of basic white. Me too, Shirley. Me too. Okay. There we go. Now stick around, guys, because I got a couple more ideas for you. And there it is. There is our first card. Well, our second card, really, because we did the overlay, right, with this one. And then this one is with a 3D embossing folder. And this was just the plain vellum. Let me show you one that I did previously where I embossed the shimmer vellum. And boy, is that stuff beautiful. I don't know if you've seen that. That is gorgeous. That is in the annual catalog, and it comes in the in colors, the 2021, 2023 in colors. And I embossed it with the pine bough embossing folder from the wintry set, the little mini embossing folders. And I just put it into some evergreen and cherry cobbler, and then some of the beautiful gold ribbon from the annual catalog as well. But that is really pretty as well. And with that sparkle, it just adds a little extra oomph. So those are our embossed vellums. Let me pull the next one in. We're going to do some heat embossing. Now there is a trick to heat embossing on vellum because it is a different material than cardstock. So when you're applying the heat, it can potentially cause your vellum to warp, and we definitely don't want that. So we're going to pull out, I used a lot of different products on this card, and I will share those with you, but let me get my pieces. So again, we're going back to the cardstock white vellum that's in the catalog. We're going to have a base on this one of Night of Navy. And this is all 5.5 by 8.5. This will be our inside piece. And then I have the vellum, and then I'm going to have a layer of balmy blue behind it. So what I want to do, you need an anti-static tool, and it's even more important than on regular cardstock, I think, when you're using the vellum. So you want to take your anti-static tool over top of the vellum, all over, and then you want a well-inked Versamark pad. So we are using the tree, one of the trees from Evergreen Elegance. Those are my favorite trees right now. I love the trees in the Peaceful Cabin set, but they're not as easy to use because they're kind of connected. So I really like the individual trees in the Evergreen Elegance. And I'm going to stamp this, but not quite the whole way down at the bottom. And you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to put it right about there. And then we're going to pour silver embossing powder over that. And yes, I'm cheating. I'm using my tray that Stampin' Up! Used to sell. And there's going to be 2 steps to this embossing, but I am going to do the tree first. And if you get a little stray mark on it, have a little paintbrush handy, and you can just take that right off. Okay. Put that right there again. Okay, so I'm going to bring my heat tool in. Actually, I'm going to move this out of the way so we're not blowing powder everywhere, right? This is the old heat tool that Stampin' Up! Used to sell. We have one now that gives you 2 strengths. And you can see it starting to set, right? That silver is coming up very nicely. So I'm going to keep the heat tool moving. So I'm not applying too much heat in any one spot. If your paper starts to warp, here's the trick. Turn it over on the back. and hit it from there, and it will flatten it right out. So we have our tree embossed, but now I want to put some more embossing on there with snowflakes. So let me find, there they are. Like, I know I had them. So we're going to bring in the Versamark again. You don't necessarily have to, but I am going to run the anesthetic bag over the vellum again. And the reason for that is I touched the vellum, right? So the oils from my hand may get onto the vellum and cause the powder to stick somewhere where we don't want them to. Now we're just going to scatter some snowflakes around here. You can do as few or as many as you like. I'm going to come the whole way down here, and I am going to come down on this side of the tree just a little bit. And then if I feel like there's a hole, we can always go back and hit it, right? So I'm going to pick it up at the bottom where I know I don't have any Versamark. Pour that all over. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to add the silver powder, the gold powder, whatever powder you're using, right? Some people are real cautious, and I'm like, dump it. You can always pour it back in. So I think I am going to just get one more set right there. I just like it to be going off the page. Makes it look a little more finished, right? And then we'll heat set these. And I apologize. I know the heat tool is loud. As soon as you see that powder start to come up, you're going to move the gun around. And don't get it too close to the vellum. You could burn it. And I can see this starting to warp just a little bit, so we're going to come to the back. And it is embossing even from the back. It's setting that powder. And there we go. And that is nice and flat now. So that is a great trick to have in your arsenal. If you see it start to warp, just turn it over and do the back. Okay, Shirley. Good luck. So we're going to put that powder back in there and move this out of our way at this point. All right, so we're going to mount this onto this balmy blue. How are we going to do that? Well, we are going to do that because I have a strip of basic white that I'm just going to fussy cut into a snowbank. Okay. And then I'm going to mount this down here. So where this is covering, we can put our adhesive behind there. And then I'm going to add one more element that will allow us to add additional adhesive. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and stamp a greeting across the snowbank. And I have Happy Christmas here. That is from the Happy Holidays. I think I warped my grid paper more than I warped my vellum. What do you think? I did that in Night of Navy because Night of Navy is going to be our card base. So trying to keep everything coordinated. And I am going to mount this to the front of the vellum first, so I know exactly how high to go with the adhesive on the back of the vellum. Okay. So then I can put some adhesive right back here. Looks like our tree is sitting behind the snowbank. Love that effect. And I'm not, don't worry, there's going to be a little more adhesive go on here, but I'm just going to put these two together so they stay together for when I'm ready to finish it off. Okay, so then I used the So what stamp? What do I use? I use the Giving Gifts dies. I wanted to say the Time of Giving, and that's the coordinating stamp set. And I love these dies. I especially like the Santa and the reindeer die. Isn't that cute? But it has snowflakes, it has pumpkins, it has ornaments, and then it has all other kinds of additional dies included with it. It does pair with Time of Giving. It's just a really fun set. And what I did is I cut one of the Santas and the reindeer, and then I trimmed it out. So I just have Santa and the reindeer. I don't have any outline. You usually end up with a rectangle around it. And I didn't want the rectangle. I just wanted Santa and the deer. So I'm using our black mini dimensionals. Oh dear. That didn't go exactly where I wanted, but I think we'll be okay. And we're just going to put these in the widest part of the deer and then one behind Santa's sleigh. When you trim this out, make sure you leave a runner for your sled. You don't leave anything under the reindeer paws, but you definitely want a runner under the sleigh. And then this is going to go up here. So guess where I'm going to put some more adhesive? Right behind Santa. So I can see where that is, and I can do this. And I could even do a couple glue dots behind there if I wanted to, but I think that will hold it very nicely in place. And then we're going to mount this to our card front. So you can absolutely, I've heard people say, well, you can't heat emboss on vellum. You absolutely can. Again, if your paper starts to warp, the tips for that is keep your gun moving. Don't hold it too close to your vellum. And if your vellum paper starts to warp, then simply take your gun to the back of the vellum and heat set from the back, and it will flatten itself out. Okay. All right. So there is tip number 3, or technique number 3, if you will. And then I have one more for you in this portion of the series. So how about this? That is not colored. That is not colored with our chalk markers. So I can't wait to show you this one. We are going to use some gorgeous grape and some basic black that I embossed with the bark embossing folder. This is a card that is really cute, but it comes together really quickly. So again, all the card bases tonight are 5.5 by 8.5, and then 4 by 5.25 layers. I'm going to grab my seal again. Put that down. This is going to be our inside piece. And I did pre-stamp the vellum. And the only reason I did that is I stamped it with Stays On. Stays On is a solvent-based ink, so it will dry very quickly, but maybe not quickly enough for us to keep moving when you stamp it on vellum. If you're going to stamp Memento or classic inks, I recommend embossing them, heat embossing them with clear powder, right? But Stays On will dry. You can see it's all dry. No ink coming off of my fingers. And another little tip that I'm going to show you on this one is called the stained glass. So this is the front of our vellum that we stamped on. We can flip that over and we can color on the back. This way you are not running the alcohol marker over the Stays On ink, which could in fact cause the Stays On to bleed because it is a solvent and alcohol marker. So we don't typically recommend using Stays On with your alcohol blends. The recommended ink for that is the Memento. But if you do this stained glass technique with vellum and you flip it over and color from the back, you don't run the risk of any of that bleeding on you. And the flower that I'm using is from Flowers of Friendship. Okay, that one has the coordinating punch. has the pet or the leaves and then the 2 flowers on the punch. So now I'm going to keep this flipped over, right? And this is the stylus from the scoring tool. So we're going to just, and I'm using the thick end, and we're going to just scribble, if you will. I'm going in circular motions inside the flower line. Okay, and I'm going to do all 3 flowers. Now you can't really see the effect on the white paper. I don't think I have a piece of dark paper over here. Let's do it on this. So you can see it's starting to turn the vellum white. It's just like when you do the 3D embossing, right? Because you're applying pressure to that vellum, it turns it white. And I'm not pushing so hard that I'm going to tear the vellum, but I am giving it a fairly good pressure. This is the cardstock vellum, so it takes a little bit to tear it. Again, I do recommend using the larger ball tip versus the smaller, just because you can get more coverage that way, and you're less likely to poke through the vellum. The smaller tip may, in fact, go right through the vellum. Now, when we turn it over, look what we have. Not only do we now have white flowers, but these are 3D. These are raised flowers. So I turn it over and I'm like, oh, this one looks like it needs a little bit more. Let's come back over here. So you can keep going to whatever white intensity you would like. You also may find that you have some darker white when you flip it over, and you might want to come back and try to equalize that effect all over the flower. But I just love that. I love that effect. Okay, so we're going to stop there. And then this is going to go right there. Now, there is this white back here. So, well, I was going to put a glue dot back there, but my glue dot, oh, there they are. I was going to say, but my glue dots have taken off. So let's see what a glue dot looks like behind that white. I'm going to use the tip of my scissors. Has anybody tried this technique before? Are we going to see that? We are not, I don't think. Can you see that? I tried a dimensional on this one, and you can actually see the dimensional. And there's another trick I use often when I am putting down vellum, and that is I put a pool of the Tombow liquid glue out, and then I pounce my sponge in it, or sponge dauber, whatever you might have, and pounce it on the back of the vellum, and you don't see that at all. So, all right. And then, of course, we're going to have our circle. And so that's going to help us hide some additional. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of adhesive down here. That's going to be perfect. Now, see, there you can see that. And that's because it's resting on top of the emboss, the bark, right? The embossing for the bark. So, got so much stuff. There they are. I'm like, I know I have them. So I use the layering circles, and I cut out a gorgeous grape circle and a basic white circle. And then I have the hugs, prayers, and love stamp from the positive thoughts. And we're going to do it in black. Now here I can use the memento because I'm going right on the basic white. And I cannot see white on white. I don't know about you guys. So we're going to bring that over here so I have a better chance of hitting the circle. And then that, of course, we're going to pop up on a dimensional. And if I had my large black here, I would use those. But since I only have my minis, we'll just use a couple of those around. Oh, thank you, Tina. Thanks for watching. Please give me a comment or a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't. I'd appreciate it. And this just goes right down here in the corner. All right, guys, so there are 4 different ways to use your vellum, right? This one was even whiter. I worked on that one a little bit longer, but I think you can see the effect of that. So we have that, which is kind of a manual embossing, if you will, dry embossing, because you're using the stylus. We have heat embossing and keeping your vellum nice and flat. And then, of course, we did the dry embossing on the white with the ornate floral embossing folder. So, so pretty. Dark colors behind it makes the white pop a little bit more. Lighter colors, it will be a little more subtle for you. And then I shared this one with you where I embossed the shimmer vellum with the pine bough. That is beautiful as well. And then just as simple as making a overlay, right? A diffuser. I call it a diffuser because it diffuses the color that's behind it and allows you to stamp your greeting right on top of it. So hopefully you got a little bit of something new there. Be sure to come back. As I said, if it's not next week, it'll be the week after. And we'll do part 2 of vellum. And if I have more, we'll do a part 3. But thanks so much for joining me tonight, guys. Remember, if you do not have a demonstrator that you're working with, or you are one of my customers, here is November's hostess code and my website. And I would appreciate your business. Thanks so much. Have a great holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone here in the US. And I will see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.